across the planet now, and the dismantlement of a lot of the institutions under the black codes, because remember, black codes are a psychic attack constructed by hybrid Europeans. So as the people are becoming cognate and active in Canaan land and elsewhere, and you see the disruption of the institutions of both Westminster, Washington, D.C., and the popes of Rome, you see it taking place there. This is part of the dismantlement. Because keep in mind, don't look at the people as being unsuccessful. Look at the fact that Rome hasn't fallen totally yet. As Rome falls, you know, the real deal, why are you doing what you're doing? Why is the cognates being promoted? So that you, me, we can be more competent to take care of our affairs. You know, and I know already, in the state of mind that our people are in those black codes, that they not only would not properly administer their political jurisdictions, they will corrupt them and give them back to the hybrids. Is it not reflected in the fact that you've seen many of the Asiatics of North America in different walks of life acquire fiat to the levels that they could do a lot to help our people, but you see that when they usually step in that direction, if they're not overthrown by the hybrid Europeans via the IRS or some other one of their three-letter social engineering operations, you will see them usually get socially destroyed, or they're not in the state of mind proper to even build something to help themselves and their own people. And so they usually buy a bunch of expensive jewelry, making some hybrid rich with diamonds that are stolen from other parts of Africa. And they usually, you know, like if you give them a 35-inch wheel to put on their car that costs $80,000, that's what they'll spend it on. So is such a person in that state of mind prepared to run government? Answer the question yourself. However, as people are becoming cognate and more realistic from among them, and they'll probably become more from the youth who are less contaminated, the truth will come from the mouth of babes. They will come with a cognizance given to them, bliss upon them by their mothers, and who will bring those champions here who will be qualified to fix all this mess. They're being born. They're not made, they're being born. Because keep in mind, particularly as our women become more cognate, able to forgive, willing to forgive themselves, proper use of the womb, almost everything we need, they'll bring here anyway. Because the capacity is already in your light, in your DNA. We just need some clean-minded women or stargates to do their work without all the BS that we've been subjected to, including the Christian black codes that have been governing our families and tearing us apart. And we've been mad at each other, not knowing that the puppeteer has been operating this game on us, and we've fallen for it. We've agreed to these fake jurisdictions.
Speaking of the Christian black codes, what you're talking about, why is it that most Christians, including me when I was
people that claim to be Christians,
including myself, I'm gonna put myself in there, who was, when I was, you know, claiming Christianity and embracing that, why didn't we know that these codes existed? Do you think that knowledge of these codes would have had less and less or fewer of us calling ourselves Christians?
Kind of like, you know, it's like, it's not that it's unknown because they're predominant in all the states. You know,
but they're not. This is not.
They're not promoted educationally.
Right.
They're enforced in the corporate venues, like in the municipalities. When you read the Christian black codes, you will see actually the origin of the municipal codes in the different cities, how they target our people. You'll understand it because it's right there. You know,
and these have never been
they've never
removed.
been changed.
Never been changed.
They've never been changed. Our people have been trained to call it racism and prejudice, but they've never been pointed. No, it's not racism. Why don't you read the Christian black codes that operate in all these corporate municipalities, that all these council people in secret study? Why? You ever wonder why all the council people and all the mayors and all the governors and all these senators and congressmen just happen to be Freemasons, just happen to be daughters of ISIS, just happen to be Eastern Stars, just happen to be daughters of the American Revolution, just happen to be Odd Fellows, just happen to be Knights of Columbus? Come on. You know, it's like, it's not that it's not there, Dr. Nail, it's that our people see these things and they don't pay attention to them because they're not them. Reverend Jones didn't say it, and he's a Mason. 99% of them. And they condemn it across the rostrum so that people don't look at it. They look at it, what is them imitating Egyptian or Hikuta culture. It's just that they're dark side. Not all and every one of them, but for the most part, because they're used for conquest. You know, it's so like this. Instead of using water to cultivate a plant, they'd rather use the water to drown a baby and then drink its blood. So people get mad at the water. This is how they use masonry. So when people look at masonry as an example, they don't look at masonry as astrology, which is the culture, because they don't know that masonry is astrology. You see the point? So they condemn masonry. Oh, it's the devil. No, those ones that's using it as devils.
So they have their own form of masonry, which is dark.
Yes. Everything, a coin. If you have a coin, does it have a front? If it has a front, physics. Have a front, does it have a back?
Yes.
That's fundamental physics, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's not quantum, but it's fundamental physics, third dimension, isn't it?
Yes.
So we're talking about aggregate operations of law on the firmament of Earth. So the firmament of Midgard deals with land, air, and water. So land, air, and water makes law, doesn't it?
Yes.
So the rules of law are based on the rules of nature. If one is not harmed with the rules of nature, one gets out of the knowledge of law, don't they? So those who've been governing you have misused that position and then don't teach you. And then when you go in those directions, they say, oh, it's the boogeyman, don't look at that. And isn't this how our people, for the most part, look at masonry? Don't most people condemn masonry and don't even know what it is?
Yeah.
People don't not know that masonry means mother and son? From a metaphorical image, you would look at the image of Isis, Ayana, which is also Isis, or Sheba, which is also Isis, Ishtar, also Isis, and Horus on her lap. And then for those who have imitated Christianity, you'll see the image of Mary and Jesus on her lap, which is Isis and Horus. That's what all it is. That's mother and son study. That's masonry. And the culture of us. Here is on Midgard. Who's on Midgard? Mother and son. Does the son of mother have a navel or a belly button? Yes. Does a man have a belly button? Yes. Then he's a mother's son. So he are born Masons. Do you understand that? Our people really, you know, it's uncomfortable because so much has been contaminated. And I don't reject our people being what you call tentative about these things. It's just that they don't have the knowledge. But I do condemn the priesthood on all levels for not telling the truth because, like you were saying earlier, Dr. Naila, see, because if these things were known, the institutions would collapse because most of them are fake. Most of them are fraud. Most of them are projections of the truth watered down. Because if the priesthood told the truth, almost all institutions on the planet that's made in the third dimensional level of Pisces would collapse overnight. There would be an apostasy that the world has never known, which of course is taking place now anyway. So they can't stop it anyway. Thank you very much. However, this is the point. You know, like many times, Doc, as we've talked on different levels about, social engineering and the problems of humanity, and how people will make statements about the Bible and then pretend they never heard about the Septuaginta. Mm-hmm. How people will talk about the Sabbath and then act like they don't know anything about the Sabian Moors, from which the Sabbath comes from. But everybody in the name of religion talking about the Sabbath. It's sort of like a carpenter trying to argue with you that he doesn't know what a saw is or hammer. Now, if the man says that he's a carpenter and you're going to sit up there and argue with him and let him get this off on you that he don't know about a hammer and a saw, he's a liar and you're a dummy. You get the point? Because it goes together. So when you're talking about social engineering, they'll talk about ancient Egypt, ancient Yucatan, ancient America, and everything, and then act like they don't know recent history that took place in the last 200 years. But they're going to tell you about ancient history. Is that not a contradiction? So how can people know or make reference to the colonization of North America by hybrid Europeans and then act like they're not familiar with the Christian Black codes, which is commonly known around the world as operative social engineering at North America? Not just that, how our people are always making race arguments about race and then don't know anything about Carlos Linnaeus or Frederick Johann Blumenbach, from which that whole paradigm was adopted in the modern world. In the modern world, not in the ancient world. Had nothing to do with ancient world. We're talking about contemporary times. Put it this way. It's like someone claiming to be a scholar and then don't know what etymology is. It's like somebody talking about, like somebody always talking about the Bible, and this is the word of God and stuff. And this is God's own sandwiches. And then this is the word. We're going around the world to teach the word. And etymology is the science of words. Like, duh. And then they pretend they don't know what etymology is and why our children can't read, because they have denied our children basic third grade etymon degrees, which they need in order to read. These frauds that we've been calling leaders, politicians, and priests, well, they can get that off on some of these people talking about they don't know. They knew, they chose. Point of it is they can fool the people like they've been fooling them most of the time. But in the age of Aquarius light, and with the electricity of Uranus hitting them on all fronts, and Saturn energy cashing all their checks, we don't have to prove anything to them. Let them experience it, because they ain't getting it off no more. It's being dismantled. Yeah, they know. Stop making excuses for them. That's part of the reasons why this BS has survived, because they have no jurisdiction except what we keep giving them and making excuses for them. If you want to debate about some little 2-year-old that keep talking about the Bible, the Quran, and all the holy books and holy roly prayer, and the little baby, because they're limited in their new bodies, old spirits but new bodies, not being able to exactly communicate because veils pull over, although some of them connect, some of them, well, and then, they're trying to figure out how to talk to you. Well, some grown man or woman that's been taking people's finances and stealing the widow's pennies, talking about Jesus, God, Moses, Allah, Muhammad, and getting over on these poor people for decades, and pretending they don't know the origins of all of those sects You make excuses for them. I don't. They know damn well what they're doing and what they have done to this planet. We don't have to make any excuses anymore because they're being cleaned up. Let them fight Mother Nature because she ain't playing. You can call her Allah because Allah is a feminine name too, and a lot of people got that twisted too. Mom's cleaning up the house. Get over it. And those who think they ain't going to get spanked, keep on trying her. But she ain't playing no more. Hopefully, and I don't have to hope because it's on the plate already. Women are becoming cognate, and those who recognize their Stargate capacities are bringing champions in so we don't have to argue it no more. You know how people say, well, I'm not into that, and I don't believe those sandwiches that you talking about. I don't care. I ain't trying to prove nothing to them. Sit back and experience it because you're getting it. All of us are getting it. You will either clean up willingly or you will be cleaned out, whether you will to be or not. Thank you very much. So, and let's add to this. You know how like a lot of exercises we've been doing for the last 25, 30 years, talking about in personam jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction, territorial jurisdiction, the different levels of jurisdiction, the cognates of writs, averments of jurisdiction, quo warrantos, mandamuses, etc. Those were exercises to get you working again in your mind. But understand, even those platforms, as we move along, aren't even going to be used anymore. They're just for your mental exercise. Those platforms of government structure that you've been used to, done, Kaputski, it's not going to be it's going to be governed by councils, just like Modulus. Modulus is pretty much in the nature of what will be in the future on another level, more galactic level, but same principles. But what you've been, people getting together, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to make them honor the treaties and stuff. We're just doing this for a mental exercise to get you straight. All those platforms is done. 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 But you need the exercise. That's why we've been telling you for years. Some of the things we're doing today is for your exercise because you need to be thinking. You need to comprehend what should have been. But since they didn't do it, all these things were breached. But they only played their role for that third dimensional operation. They're not necessary anymore. Take that. Oh, and they're being enforced too, on another level. So people, whether they will, I don't feel like it, I feel as though, play the games all you want to. I don't care what you guys says. I ain't trying to prove anything I'm saying. All I'm saying is, for those of you who've been listening to me for years, what I told you 15 years ago, you're living today. And I ain't trying to prove anything. I'm going to sit back, drink some juice, eat a peanut butter sandwich, and watch the dynamics take place. Told you get an umbrella. Didn't need it. Fine. The rain is here. Big deal. It's for washing now, that's all. Any other questions?
Comments. Okay. With the fall from Sega Sage, with the fall of this Constantinian order, what will happen to corporations such as China and Russia that are competing with the United States corporation?
Let's put it this way. Let's look at the dynamics of the politics. Is the United States itself legitimate for anyone to be arguing for or pro or con?
Yeah.
So, do you think that the Manchurians, and we're not talking about corporate China, which isn't Chinese, that must be understood too. You think they forgot the Opium Wars that murdered many of their people and destroyed much of the culture? Huh? Whose side you on? That's one way to look at it. Now, if you're talking about legitimate government operations of states united under treaty that were overthrown 1861, now if you're talking about the restoration of that political platform of honor for hybrid Europeans doing treaty with the Moors, I'm in support of that all day long, of the Republic, distinguished from the Republican Party, distinguished from the Democratic Demon Party, which are both frauds, neither of which honor the treaties or the Constitution. Oh, what? They're competing with the Manchurians? I think it was some of their praetors who moved some of the industry over in China after they took over some areas of China, and they're in fact not Chinese at all, but they've been controlling part of China's economy. They're actually some hybrids. So who are you talking about? You know, and it's sort of like this. You know, we're dealing again the dynamics of people being confused that the United States is not a country, and they keep talking about the United States as if it's a country. Competing with who? It seems to me that when the hybrid Europeans were murdering a lot of the Seminole and East Moors in the land of flowers, and the Wachita, the Dugdamunya tribes, etc., and the Anyanwea, it was some Russians that came to help and stopped a lot of that stuff. So why we made it Russians? That's just a question. And also, a couple of wars that took place and that were being perpetrated by people de facto who were operating from North America, operating in Iberia, Europe, Germany, etc. It was some Russians that stopped a lot of crap from happening here. Why don't they tell you about that? So my question to all of us is, before we start taking sides about anyone, we need to start figuring out who's really who's been projecting. Mustn't we? Mustn't we? Mustn't we? Because the United States is not a country. It's a private corporation owned by the popes of Rome, who have been the source of problems on the planet. Let's remind ourselves of some things. Let's remind ourselves about the U.S. jurisdiction. Take note, you all. Now, most of you are scholars who come here at the official House of Reawakening Minds, so most of you already know this stuff. And like, you know, I could talk to Dr. G as we're talking today. You know, a lot of times, you know, it gets boring hearing ourselves talk because we've been telling this stuff for years and years and years. It just has become common knowledge now with many people in what they're calling the conscious community, which is also a misused statement. However, we've been telling people this for 25, 30 years. So the original organic and de jure constitutional United States Republic operating at North America and its established Republican form of government set forth at Article 4, Section 4 of that Constitution was secretly and covertly overthrown and converted into a foreign, privately owned, and for-profit corporation in the year 1871. For those of you who don't know, look and research the Act of Congress, 1871, and they will often list it in like diplomatic relations, etc., as the Organic Act of Congress, 1871. And that misprision, deprived, and foreign feudal law entity was styled as the United States Corporation Company. It's not the country, it's a private corporation, a conglomerate of Roman Curia member corporations controlled politically on the legal or what you would call jurisdictional side by the barristers of England from the British accredited registry known as the Bar Association, who create all their forms, fixed forms, known as IRS forms, etc., in homage to the fake, artificial, perpetrating, imitation Queen of England, answering to the popes of Rome and the bishoprics of Rome. That corporation and all corporate entities are governed by them and the Roman Curia. That's why every time you use one of their forms, it's already colored and you always lose. They're organized criminals. Get over it. Now, so that misprision derived in foreign feudal law entity was styled as United States Corporation Company. Many of you will recall about maybe 10 years ago or more, I shared with you all copies of the United States Corporation Company's Corporation Papers of 1925 and information on their bankruptcy then again, which then you understand what Franklin Delano Roosevelt did with the birth certificates to rebond them, because no one was buying the marriage certificates anymore. And everybody's now talking about the birth certificates. Who's talking about those marriage certificates that funded this whole fraud operation? It's the divinity of the Jesusness of the Lord up in the rice in your eye. That's why I threw rice in your eye. So you pay attention to that priest was a damn demon behind the pulpit. Let me tell you something about these demons. Game up. Anyway, so the privately owned and foreign entity was created by acts of misprision and sedition. And all its corporate franchisees, that means all the corporate municipalities and the corporate counties and all the corporate states of entity operations, are member body politics of the Roman Curia, and none of them are legitimate. Not a one. And this politically and socially subdued truth is actually the source of the functioning jurisdictional powers that gives the Pope of Rome and of the Vatican bishopric the valid and affirmable authority as expressed and executed via all issues of de facto color of law legislation that they've been operating and putting on the planet since 1871. So, the United States is the private corporation belonging to the Popes of Rome, operated and regulated through the bar members that you know as the Bar Association, which in the Bible would be called Pharisees and Sadducees. You call them now lawyers and attorneys. Did you not know that they was the Pharisees and the Sadducees? Duh. All the paperwork that they be sending you, the marriage certificates and the birth certificates and all of this stuff comes from them. This is why they always come into all of your estates after they signify, get men and women battling each other. Soon as they get married with that private contract, which they're treated as ships in the night, and the corporate state comes in and rapes them. And they've been doing it for quite some time. It got not a damn thing to do with anything divine. It's a spell cast for human trafficking. All marriage certificates sold by the corporate states are cast spells of the priesthood regulated by the Roman members of the Roman Curia, registered and regulated from Fleet Street, England. They ran out of them. Now they got the birth certificates. It ain't nothing new. It's just that some of the people starting to think and found out about, the birth certificates are really bank bonds. Notice the number over here and stuff, and notice the Cusick number on the social certificate. Whoa, we didn't know this. And nobody talked about the marriage certificates, did they? The whole bunch and caboodle of all of the bull is going down the tubes. Wake up, y'all. They're all Christian Black codes operations of bottomry instrumentality for human trafficking. And that's not a maybe, that's a fact. Grow up, start taking responsibility, and find your God within. You ain't out there in the sky. some out there that you've been calling gods, but they're not exactly what you've been thinking. You know, when we was talking earlier, Dr. Naila, one of your poems, when we were talking earlier, and I said, "Oh, can you read that?" Because that was apropos to really even this. Because remember, we're talking about the Christian Black Codes, because they've been operative for a couple hundred years to destroy the people and destroy the families of Aboriginal people. And you just simply need to know the tool that has been used. When you see the operations of all the municipal operations, the taxation, what they will call the regency regulations, you see zoning, all of these have their root in the Christian Black Codes. All the political operations that you think is separate or something that they've done with some intelligence of metrology, no, it's Christian Black Codes. And so now you know, wake up, get real, put on your armor, stop being docile, and start rejecting Rome at every point, every angle, and stop giving the U.S. corporation jurisdiction. It's not a country. That is the pocketbook and the collection arm and the war arm for the Roman Curia operators through the Roman Catholic Church, the P2 Masons, and the Vatican. That's the truth. However, at the same time, some of these institutions, though still in power, are being dismantled. That's the disruption that you're experiencing, including them stealing personalities and souls and putting out the oxygen. So to slow down the operations of the third eye, which you know as the pineal gland. And so they put a mask on you. And you know what mask means? It means person. Personality means mask. Don't think that they're not operating metaphysically either, because they are. Christian Black Codes, Constantine. But they thought nobody was going to come and get them, because they've been murdering everybody for decades. They thought they was going to get this off, didn't they? Well, Divine got another argument for him. The Cosmic Mother, she kind of pissed a little bit, to speak it lightly. Any other questions?
I am trying to see that. Okay, I'm starting up from the bottom and moving back up. So here's one.
Mm-hmm.
Grand Sheik, how should our daughters, this is from Because I Said So, how should our daughters marry at this point? They each will marry in 2022. How should we instruct them? Thank you.
Number one, your main instruction is that you got to get away from Rome and understand that the U.S. corporation and all municipalities are members of the Roman Curia. If you want to serve Rome, send them to them. If you don't, pull them away from Rome and take responsibility. There we go. That's your answer. Do all of your honorable obligations within your family, outside of the jurisdiction of the corporate state. All corporate state operations are frauds created by Rome for human destruction.
So actually they can have a commitment ceremony.
You got that absolutely right.
Commitment ceremony with the...
You got that. We'll talk about that in the future, as a matter of fact, of some details on, you know, what you can do and what is your avail to you to do. It's just that we haven't... See, this is what has been happening to us. We've been groomed to believe outside of ourselves. We've been groomed to look for the answers from the enemy who've been lynching our mothers and fathers. We've been looking for the ones who've been killing our babies to save our babies. Well, guess what? You got to stop doing that.
Okay, here's another one. What's that? You hear that song?
Fireworks.
Fireworks or something. What would be the meaning? Shalom, peace, Dr. G. Why haven't Moors claimed mounds and grounds in North Morocco via Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People and created communities?
Consciousness, everything that's going on right now. What you see is what you call transfer of power. We're in a transitional stage. People who are alleged to be conscious and people who are becoming conscious are all still in transitional stage. Our conversations now are just to make things more malleable, to make this travel a little bit more peaceful for the people, to promote cognizance and more consciousness and self-responsibility among our people. Because everything, all your answers will actually come from within, truthfully. However, right now we're sharing with each other to help each other along. But anything I say, truthfully, you already knew.
Here's another question from JB. Question for beloved Taj Tarik Bey. The so-called United Nations in assembly, I guess, it's really United Corporations and
yes,
Assembly.
It belongs to the Pope. All of those institutions that have been presented to our people in the name of helping humanity have actually been disguised platforms for genocide against humanity. That's the truth. One of the, for those of you who may have a Circle 7 Quran from the Moorish Holy Temple of Science and the Moorish Science Temple of America, note that within the different surahs or the different chapters in the Quran, you'll notice that chapter 1 is the only chapter that is not enumerated. All the other chapters are enumerated. Pay attention to that fact. Read chapter 1, break down each paragraph, and you'll see the past, the present, and the future. And the underlying messages that Drew Ali was presenting to the Moors of North America, who have been called Negro, Black, Colored, Indians, West Indians, etc., all of whom are ancient Canaanite Moabites. That's a fact. Get over it. Accept that you've done good and you've done bad. Grow up, take responsibility, and help start fixing things for humanity at large.
Here's a question from Milton McGowan. Wasn't 1871 the year of corporate entities consolidated power under the Lloyd's Act of London?
Of course. That's why they all have what you call those Dun and Bradstreet numbers. All of them have them. All the corporate entities. That's another reason why, like, even when you're doing any business by force or anything with any of these persons or agencies, agents who are claiming to have authority as government, why don't you ask them what their business Dun and Bradstreet numbers, and you'll find out they're all corporations registered in London and in England. And the idea that people have an American country, America's a continent. Get over it. America's not a country. And the United States is a private corporation for human trafficking and conquest purposes. Has no what you would call de jure operations. None. Nada. That's why the world's in shape that it's in. People have given them strength. People have given them jurisdiction. People have supported them. And what have they done? They've been murdering your children, eating them, breaking up your relationships, and stealing your estates. Name some good that they've really done. Don't hold your breath while doing it, though. And don't think these things have not been known. People who have known these things have been silenced, cut off, murdered, suppressed, imprisoned, and everything else negative.
see if there are any more questions.
You want me to read a few more of the Black Codes?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to read a few, share with you a few more of the Christian Black Codes. Christian Black Code 1724. And you'll recognize some of these policies that are enforced in different municipalities under different corporate states across our land. Article 13. We forbid slaves belonging to different masters to gather in crowds either by day or by night under the pretext of wedding or any other cause, either at the dwelling or on the grounds of one of their masters or elsewhere, and much less on the highways or in secluded places under the penalty of corporal punishment, which shall not be less than the whip. In case of frequent offenses of the kind, the offenders shall be branded with the mark of the fleur de lis, and should there be aggravating circumstances, capital punishment may be applied at the discretion of the judges. And we command all of our subjects, be they officials or not, to seize all such offenders or arrest or conduct them to prison, although there should be not judgment against them. Now you understand what the members of the gangs of New York have been doing to the people on the street, and you all been calling them law officers, and they're really Roman soldiers. Christian Black Codes, y'all. It ain't hidden. It's just that we haven't been paying attention. We've been sitting around talking about,
and they're racist, and they got make racist sandwiches, and they shouldn't be passing out racist sandwiches in the black, green, and purple communities of the blackness of the purple people.
Imbecilic statements where people really don't comprehend reality. Wake up, grow up, and start dealing with reality, because that's what's been doing stuff to you. The people who've been claiming de facto to be your government and the municipal officers of the private corporation enforcing their Christian Black codes and then getting you to run around talk about racism. Total diversion. Total diversion. Stop playing victim. Take responsibility. Is there something else, Dr. Arnold? I'll read another code while you're looking at something else. Article 14, Christian Black Code 1724. Masters who shall, because all you need to do is take the word master and put it into city, borough, city of Philadelphia, city of Wilmington, city of Newark, etc. They take the place under manumission rules, the corporate responsibility of persons and property, and they designate the people under person of the corpse of the dead for the benefit of the municipalities under the corporate states, under the corporate union corporation, United States, under the secret treaty of Verona, delivered to the circle church and the chancery members to be regulated, delivered to the fake queen, and delivered to the bishopric or the clergy of the popes of Rome. That's what's been running this thing. And everything they've been doing to you.
And the Chinese did. And then the Russians took your sandwiches.
No, it's Rome and the bishopric. So, Article 14, masters who shall be convicted of having permitted or tolerated such gatherings as foresaid are composed of other slaves than their own shall be sentenced individually to indemnity and their neighbors for the damages occasioned by such gatherings, and to pay for the first time a fine of 30 lire and double that sum on the repetitions of the offense. Article 15, we forbid Negroes to sell any commodities. Now you understand why you have your licenses to even do business or trade, stealing your labor and your property. We forbid Negroes to sell any commodities, provisions, or to produce or produce of any kind without the written permission of their masters and without wearing their known marks or badges. And any persons purchasing anything from Negroes in violation of this article shall be sentenced to pay a fine of 1,500 lira. Now you understand where the licenses and permits for you to even trade among each other, even to braid your own hair, where it comes from, the black codes. So don't you be thinking that these persons and people operating in these municipalities are unaware of the origin of those regulations upon the people, imposed upon people, that they've been using to rob the people of their rights and their liberties and their property and of their labor. Christian black codes, Constantine order, Niceno-Constantinopolitan creed operations pretending to be Christians, conquering the Western Hemisphere, sometimes called European colonialism or hybrid European hegemony, falsely also called white supremacy. Get real. Is there anything else? If you want me, I'll read some more. All right, Articles 16, 17, 18, and 19 provides a length for the clothing of slaves and for their subsistence. Article 20, slaves who shall not be properly fed, clad, or provided for by their masters may give information thereof to the Attorney General of the Superior Council or to all the officers of an inferior jurisdiction, and may put the written exposition of their wrongs into their hands, upon which information, and even ex officio, shall the information come from another quarter, the Attorney General shall prosecute said masters without charging any cost to the complainant. It is our will that this regulation be observed, and all accusations or crimes or barbarous and inhumane treatment brought by slaves against their masters. That's where you get the Department of so-called Child Welfare and Human Services. That's where that comes from. In case you didn't know, and those politicians who pretend they don't know what they've really been using, see what they do, they steal all your substance and then put you under a false jurisdiction to give you pittance of some of your own estate back, and then put you in debt for it, and then regulate your family under the guise of helping you. Article 21, slaves who are disabled from working either by old age, disease, or otherwise, be the diseases incurable or not, shall be fed and provided for by their masters. And in case they should have been abandoned by said master, said slave shall be adjudged to the nearest hospital, to which said master shall be obliged to pay 8 cents a day for the food and maintenance of each one of these slaves. And for the payment of this sum, said hospital shall have a lien on the plantation of the masters. Now you understand how they've been stealing your labor, and then after they've used up your body and your labor and your age, then they have what they call nursing homes for you to send those who have been made sickly by all of the crap they've been feeding you. State property. Don't think that these politicians who've been making all these regulations of these municipalities and these so-called council people aren't aware of the Christian black codes, because they use them to legislate from. And they don't vary from it either. They just change the words, change the structure. But the whole platform is about human trafficking and human regulation. and taxation of your labor under the guise of being your government. They're not your government, they're your enemy. But since you all haven't accepted that, they're showing you every angle that they're not your friend. So we don't have to convince you at all, because they're kicking your asses left and right. You got any cheeks left? Want me to read another one?
Yes.
Article 22. We declare that slaves have no right to any kind of property, but that all that they acquire, either by their own industry or by the ability of others, or by any other means or title, whatever shall be the full property of their masters, and the children of said slaves, their fathers, their mothers, their kindred, and other relation, either free or slave, shall have no pretensions or claim thereto, either through testamentary or positions or donations inter vivos, which dispositions and donations we declare null and void, and also whatever promise they may have entered into by persons incapable of disposing of anything and or participating to any contract. Now you understand why they tax you on everything, on your labor, on your wages, and sign you as a corporate person. And every time they even write from the municipality, they will have the nomen in all capital letters, because the estate of all things that you thought you possessed, they have claimed under unum sanctum and the doctrine of discovery. And you have no right of property or person or of labor or of any inheritance. There's your municipal codes. So you can pretend that you never read this stuff, and you can pretend that those politicians that you keep voting for didn't know this. All of their rules come from the Christian Black Codes of the Constantine order. Oh,
I never heard of that before.
Yeah, but you live it every day. And you see them enforcing it on the street by beating people up, ritually murdering people on the street. And now you know why nothing happens that appears to be even remotely justice. So are you going to keep on supporting these people? You going to keep on trying to be a part of them? Keep it up. They're going to show you the demons, who they really are. Many of you are not convinced yet. You need a little bit more pain. Some need a lot more pain. Article 24, slaves shall be incapable of all public functions and of being constituted agents for any other person than their own masters, with powers to manage or to conduct any kind of trade, nor can they serve as arbiters or experts, nor shall they be called to give their testimony either in civil or criminal cases, except when it shall be a matter of necessity and only in default of white people. But in no case shall they be permitted to serve as witness either for or against their masters. Now you see why it's so difficult for you to sue corporate state agents when they do stuff to you, your family, steal your children, and do all kind of stuff. Christian Black Codes. And all these administrators are using them for guidance to their legislation. All of your municipal, city, and borough operations are based in the Christian Black Codes. So you've been sitting around talking about racism and prejudice, and it's the Christian Black Codes of the Constantine order, of the Bishopric of Rome. And you keep talking about voting for them.
I got a right to vote. I'm marching for my right to vote.
I know that a lot of the adults are so compromised and corrupted and hypocritical that they will reject this altogether. However, mothers are bringing youth in, and the youth will come into this consciousness with their eyes wide open and will help clean this mess up. For the most part, this is for you all. I'm not trying to argue with the old heads who've been selling themselves out and selling their babies and pretending to be Jesus freaks or Allah lovers. You know, they can do what they want to do. The Aquarian age is for the newborn and the unborn. And this is just a small message to help us along.
Here's a question while you're going from paper claim. What should we study in order to remove ourselves from Rome?
First, knowing that Rome is Rome and Rome is not your country. That's the first thing. It's back to, why have our people been supporting institutions and agencies with their labor, their taxes, their services, their so-called vote, their dedication? Is because they thought these institutions presented for them or represented them. Once you know, and you know now, that they don't, never did, they're all parasitic, that's enough for you to start rejecting them. That's your answer. And using your own intelligence and look within, because it's all within you. You just have not believed in yourselves. You've been believing in everybody outside, including the idol god worships they've been selling you at a severely high and non-productive cost. Take responsibility. That's how. And information-wise, you've been given this information for quite some time. Whether or not you've been paying attention, that's another issue. Is there anything else you want me to read another one?
Please continue.
Hmm?
Please continue.
Let's see, excuse me. Slaves may be prosecuted criminally without their masters being made parties to the trial. These are those what you call trials in absentia type things they've been doing to our people. Except they should be indicted as accomplices, and said slaves shall be tried at first by the judges of ordinary jurisdiction, and if there be any, and on appeal by the superior council, with the same rules, formalities, and proceedings observed for free persons, save the exceptions mentioned hereafter. And keep in mind, this is where our people keep recognizing when they keep on seeing this so-called double standard of law that they keep arguing about. Well, there it is. There it is. It's not an attitude. It's written. And this is back to, like last year and a few years ago, every once in a while we'll do a reminder class or rehash jurisdictions and understanding jurisdictions and the importance for our people to understand jurisdictions, what creates them, what their categories are, the challenging of jurisdiction, which would be called quo warrantos or averment of jurisdiction, why they exist, mandamuses, also being in proper person so that you can even have the capacity to even make an argument. Under the Black Codes, you don't even have the capacity to even make an argument because it's a dead status, which Barack Obama told us, our people, it was. So why people even complain about him, at least he told them that, didn't he? He told people that blacks are dead status. They can't say that he didn't say that because he did.
Someone asked, I can't pronounce the name, appellation, do Moors have a relocation plan?
Why?
It's well, where we got to go.
It's your house. Why? How about do the hybrids have a relocation plan? Do you think they're going to steal the land and steal the people and they're going to retain it? They may think so. I don't think so.
Taj, who comes? Taj talk about how a passport means, I guess, you're a U.S. citizen. Some more teach that they put the free national name on the passport. But it is all in capital letters. Can you explain that?
Yes. Anything that's created by the corporate state is a corpse, is dead, and is de facto. That's the fact. Now, when are our people going to stop supporting all these institutions that put you on your knees to get your head chopped off? And when are you going to put your energy together to reestablish your own consular venues that are the law communications all over the world? It's not that they ain't in place. Have you been exercising it? Have you been helping those who've been trying to get you to do that, exercise your obligations to your affairs with the rest of the families of nations, which is a consular venue of diversity, of nationality, all over the planet, which is a constitutional and treaty issue, not some U.S. passport, which is an imposition under maritime law, claiming the vessels of the living man and women, of the sentient man and women, to be a ship under maritime law. That's what a passport is for, ships, not for humans. So let's work on working that out, shouldn't we? Shouldn't we be?